Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Washington football team's unfiltered show, The Beat. I am your host each and every week, Chip Brierre, and we move into week 4 for the Washington football team, coming off 2 straight losses, and their opponent just happens to be up the Beltway, the Baltimore Ravens. For that, we bring in our panel, a star-studded cast. We're rolling out the hits. I'm so impressed by our producer, Kyle Ryan, bringing in these guys. We've got Grant Paulson from 106.7 The Fan, who has been covering the Washington football team beat since he was just a little kid. Not many people know that. We've got Kimberly Martin of ESPN, who once covered this football team a couple years back. Now she's in the big leagues. And then we have Qadry Ismail, former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver and analyst for the team. So we're going to start with the Washington football team. They lost to the Cleveland Browns 34-20, and it begins our opening segment 3 and out. First down, everyone's talking about the young quarterback, Dwayne Haskins. He struggled mightily. 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, all 3 of those interceptions turning into Browns touchdowns. Grant, you are usually the guy with the hot takes on the radio, so I want to start with you because after the game, he said he didn't throw or stare down his throws. Then on Wednesday, he doubled back after watching the tape and said he did stare down some throws. Are you concerned with Haskins' performance of leading his guys or just looking a little too long in the pocket at his throws?
Well, the performance was clearly concerning. I think anybody who watched that game would come away with that thought, including Haskins himself and head coach Ron Rivera, who's been very candid with reporters this week. But look, Dwayne Haskins is not as bad as he played against the Cleveland Browns. I think we all know that. The question is, and what we're trying to figure out is how good is he? He has now made 10 starts as an NFL quarterback. One of them has been very good against Philadelphia in Week 15 last year. He was playing really well in Week 16 for a half against the Giants before getting hurt in the first play of the second half. So you want to get back to him being confident. I think they just need to take a little bit more off his plate, try to get him into a rhythm and get him comfortable in the pocket. He doesn't have a lot of help right now. Everybody knows that. The expectation is not that he's supposed to be Pat Mahomes, but he's got to protect the football. He did that for the first 2 games and has done that quite a bit throughout his career. I think people are forgetting that. But he just can't turn the ball over. With the 3 interceptions, could have been more, obviously. The 4 turnovers total. That's not going to work.
Kimberly, from your experience covering this team, you know that expectations from fans are pretty explosive. They want to win now, even though they should be patient. And Ron Rivera came in on Monday and said Haskins is still the guy, but there is a, quote, cutoff point if there starts to be more regression. Considering what Ron Rivera said on Monday and Haskins saying he made a commitment to himself to try and turn this thing around to Ron on Monday, that Haskins is on a short leash right now to try and turn this around in week 4.
You know, I get it. Washington fans are sick and tired of losing. I completely understand. I want good things for them. However, I want everybody to pump the brakes just a little bit, because if you're going to evaluate Dwayne Haskins, just understand that this is a young kid. He clearly I don't want to call him a project, but you knew it would take time. He wasn't going to jump in there and be, completely set at quarterback from jump. And he came in under a head coach who didn't really want him. His priority was not grooming and developing a young quarterback. It was trying to keep his job. So now Haskins is on another head coach. So really the realistic expectation for 2020 is this. Is Dwayne Haskins going to be the quarterback of the future? And I think keeping him on a short leash, to me, he's got to be the starter the entire season. Give him a season. This is a new staff that I think can be good for him. He can't, we watched that game. He can't stare down guys when he's about to release the ball. He's got to protect the football. But I do think this coaching staff can do things like Grant was saying. Keep it up tempo. Give him some quick passes off the jump so that he settles into a rhythm and settles down so that he develops some confidence early on and isn't pressing when things don't go his way early.
Qadry, the Ravens won a big performance defensively after giving up 34 to the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. They forced a turnover in 16 straight games. However, they only have 6 sacks this season. Do you think the Ravens are going to give Haskins a run for his money as he tries to turn this thing around?
So I think the biggest thing that is the elephant in the room is Wink Martindale having trouble with his defense getting pressure on a quarterback. So I guess if Dwayne is sitting there staring down his receivers and having trouble identifying coverage is what it seems like to me when I'm listening to you guys. I think Wink Martindale is going to be sitting there saying, whew, I think this is a game where we can go out there, apply some pressure to him. We don't have to bring the house, if you will. We can play good coverage. We have great secondary guys in one-on-one positions and force a young quarterback to make some tight window throws. If they can do that, then I think it's going to be another week where you're going to be having, well, is Dwayne going to be a franchise quarterback or not? I think he can be a franchise quarterback. It does take time. But, yes, what Kimberly was saying, what Grant was also saying, if, in fact, you're an offensive coordinator and you want to be an effective offensive coordinator, you got to look at the skill set of your quarterback and recognize you just can't give him the entire playbook and expect to be successful. You got to help him out, find his strengths. And then more importantly, if you're not running the football, I think that's going to really make it tough for Dwayne to be successful.
And Chip, let me just say real quick to Q's point, I think that Scott Turner, the offensive coordinator, should be applauded for his game plan against Cleveland. Remember, Washington got off to a really good start offensively. They threw the ball to running backs. The ball came out quick. They had the tempo that Kimberly talks about. Haskins got into that rhythm. It was his fastest start of the year, and then the mistakes came. So I don't necessarily blame Turner for what happened at all. I thought it was a really good plan. It was just a bad performance for Haskins. He hasn't had any performances that bad previously, and though that's why I'm saying you chalk that up as one to throw out, burn the film. Let's see where we go from here. But I like what Scott Turner did against the Browns. I thought he had a really good plan.
And Turner added on Thursday that Haskins needs to make the right play, not go out there and make plays. That's a big distinction. One word, a huge distinction for what Dwayne Haskins needs to do to turn around against the Ravens. All right, on to second down. We spent a lot of time on first down. The injuries are piling up once again. It seems like a yearly tradition, the bad kind, when you've got a key player going down for the year. Most of the time it was Jordan Reed. Now it's Matt Ioannidis. He's out for the year with a torn bicep. And now Chase Young, he is dealing with a groin injury, and there's been no update on if he will play against Baltimore. That game he looked forward to when he was drafted to come to Washington to take on Lamar Jackson, he could be missing. Let's start with those two right there, Kimberly, because what used to be a strength still is technically, but it's taken a lot of heat away from that front seven with the loss of Ioannidis and potentially of Chase Young. Is that concerning?
Yeah, it is, especially this is another week where Washington is going to see, a mobile quarterback and potentially not even potentially, Lamar Jackson. There's nothing like him in the NFL. So when you look at this defensive line, this is what excited fans. To see Chase Young out there, Lamar Jackson was sacked by the Chiefs 4 times. Washington sacked Baker, I believe, twice. So, and I think Lamar's going to be much harder to take down than Baker. Lamar's just way too elusive. I think Washington has to make him uncomfortable in the pocket, which is very hard to do because as soon as he's thinking throw, but he can, he'll run, he'll go either direction, he can make plays and he'll scramble. So I think the depth on this defensive line was the thing to get excited about. So now that you don't have it, you need guys like Montez Sweat. This could be a really big game for him. You need other guys to step up, like Jonathan Allen. Like, they've got good pieces, but the depth taking a hit, it's going to be a challenge against this team.
And Grant, I'll get to you in a second. I want to get Kadri in on this because Lamar Jackson really struggled against the Chiefs. He has been lights out for the first 2 weeks, but then he goes up against Kansas City's front seven, and he gets sacked a couple of times and doesn't put up much for performance of what we've seen. This seems as though the perfect moment for him to turn it around and get back on track. What do you expect from Lamar Jackson now that the Washington football team is without Matt Ioannidis and possibly without Chase Young?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that Lamar has run into is the fact that he is trying to stay in the pocket, that he is trying to show that he can be a pocket passer. He's incredibly accurate with the football, so I don't really doubt his capabilities as a quarterback throwing the ball. I think his offensive line, minus Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, and Marshall Yonda, the fact that they run the ball so effectively, if they can utilize play-action pass, I think that's where Washington has to be careful.
Some other injuries that are notable for the Washington football team, Grant, include Morgan Moses with a hip injury. Dontrell Inman had 2 touchdowns, and he had a wrist injury. He was out of practice this week, which is a positive sign. You've also got Ryan Anderson, who is back out there. What other injuries give you pause that could be concerning going into this matchup?
Obviously, Morgan Moses, I think, is where we have to start, Chip, because as everyone knows on this Zoom call, the offensive line has to help Dwayne Haskins, and it's an area of concern going into most weeks already. At left tackle, Jaron Christian is getting his first real NFL experience this year. At left guard, Wes Martin fended off Wes Schweitzer, who's now on the field because Brandon Sheriff's out at right guard. So you need Morgan Moses, the mainstay, who right now ranks 17th in Pro Football Focus rating at the offensive tackle position overall, and he's the highest graded offensive tackle from his draft class this season. So I like the start he's off to. I expect him to play through pain. He always does. Going back to the defensive line, Kimberly said this really well, I thought. Ioannidis is a pocket pusher. He is a pocket collapser. He does a good job against the run as well. But I remember last year talking to an NFL head coach before they played Washington, the week they played this team, and just talking to him on the phone, he said, just watching the film, the guy that scares me the most on defense is Ioannidis. We talk about Allen, who's terrific, and Payne, who's tremendous. Those guys were first-round picks. Ioannidis was a fifth-rounder. But he'd be a Pro Bowler by now if he could stay healthy. He's in that 8.5 to 10 sack range every year as a down interior defensive lineman, which is a pretty special number to get to. So they'll miss him. Hopefully, Case Young is back quickly. He's a world-leading game wrecker, and they need him as well. But they've got enough to get by for a couple of weeks, I think, up front, without it being an area that they're particularly concerned about.
Two other surprising names we saw on the injury report Thursday. Steven Sims, limited with the toe injury. Terry McLaurin with the thigh injury, limited. We imagine they'll both be able to go, but something to keep an eye on. Quickly, let's get to third down before we hit the break. The Ravens, we mentioned it, they're coming off the loss, 34-20. Some people have not dropped them down past the top 3 in their power rankings. So let's go quickly through it. The Ravens, after that loss, still seemed like a top-tier team in the NFL. Let's start with Kadri.
Okay, go ahead and doubt them all you want. They are every bit a top-tier team. I think this just makes them even more hungrier. I think that they got a little complacent, winning 12 games in a row last year, 14 overall, until they got Patrick Mahomes. There are not many Patrick Mahomes out there. Oh, wait, there's only one. So I think this Ravens defense, they're going to be hungry to get back on track. And at the same time, you still got the reigning MVP and Lamar Jackson at quarterback. I'm feeling very comfortable saying that they're a top-tier team. They're a top 3 team in the league.
Kimberly, how about you? Where do you put the Ravens now?
Chip, why is this even a question? Why is this even a question?
Because it's in the rundown. I have to ask. It's in the rundown.
I do not listen. I agree. Do not doubt the Ravens. In Lamar, I trust. They ran into kryptonite last week on Monday night. Okay, fine. I think that works against Washington big time because now people are questioning John Harbaugh, Greg Roman, the game plan. Did they abandon the run too early? What's going on? What's not working? It was one game against arguably the best team in the NFL. And if you, on a shorter week, you're going to want to come into Washington and be like, you know what? We are just as good as everyone thought we were. So I think that doesn't work for Dwayne Haskins and company.
Yeah, Kimberly, you're so right about this. And look, we did the same thing, I think, with the Patriots right after they played Seattle. Everyone said, well, maybe New England isn't as... And then they go out and they handle Vegas just like you thought they would. When you play up a level in your weight class and you take on the number 1 contender, if you lose, it doesn't mean you're not good. You're just maybe not there yet. We thought the Chiefs, the defending champions, might be the best team in football. They proved it against the Ravens. I have my concerns for Baltimore that go back, and they've been kind of resonating from the last couple of playoffs about if it's not, quote-unquote, 72 and sunny and they can't run their offense and they fall behind and they're in obvious passing situations, are they as scary a team? The Chiefs have proven that if you can get them into that situation, they might be susceptible. But good luck doing that. It's really, really, really hard to do. So Baltimore is easily a top 3 team in football. Nobody should be concerned about them getting where they want to go into the playoffs.
That was a great third down conversion to get us to break. Grant Paulson, Kadri Ismail, and Kimberly Martin here on The Beat. When we come back, a news segment debut. We keep on doing it. But you might want to look at your stocks. You're watching The Beat. We'll be right back.
We all know things are different. Keeping you safe is not. At Innova, we ensure the safety of everyone who comes to us with safe locations, safe supplies, safe cleaning, and safe practices. You're safe at Innova. Get the facts at innova.org/safety.
COVID changed everything. more demands on students, parents, educators. But there was a $4 billion education shortfall in Maryland even before COVID. We have a lot to do for our kids. Close the digital divide, provide opportunities to pursue vocational and technical education, and hire more qualified teachers. Question 2 will put millions into Maryland schools using revenue from sports betting. I know it won't solve every problem, but a yes vote will help our Maryland schools.
Welcome back to The Beat. I'm Chip Brierre. We've got Grant Paulson, Kadri Ismail, and Kimberly Martin. It's time to look at your stocks for the Washington football team and the Baltimore Ravens, because fantasy football, whatever. It's all about who's rising and who's falling. So let's look at a couple of players and some units in this matchup and evaluate where they are. Grant, I want to start with you. Rookie running back Antonio Gibson. Stock up or stock down?
Stock up for me. I think people that are bothered and or disappointed by his first few weeks in the league had unrealistic expectations. He was a wide receiver at Memphis, drafted in the 3rd round. Look around the league at third down running backs. I mean, this is a tough transition to make to begin with. And he's in an offense, obviously, that is not going to be one of the more potent groups early this season in football. We knew that. But I'm looking for moments. I'm looking for flashes. When I go back and watch the games, he had a 9-yard run against Arizona where he should have been stopped in the backfield. It was tremendous. He had another 9-yard run where he made multiple defenders miss this past week against the Browns. Those are the types of things I'm looking for. He's rated analytically among the best backs in the league through 3 weeks at the number of yards gained as opposed to expected yardage. I really like what I've seen from Gibson. He's only going to get better. I think you could put him in Sharpie as an NFL contributor for many years to come.
Kadri, Ravens defense is traditionally one of the best in the NFL. And before playing the Chiefs, they only gave up 22 points to the Browns and the Texans. And I mentioned it already, they only have 6 sacks this season. So stock up or stock down after their performance against Patrick Mahomes?
I'm going to say stock up, yet there are players on that squad that recognize that they're not doing what they need to do. In particular, Matt Judon, when it comes to him rushing the passer. I think Wink Martindale got himself in a situation where he was trying to bring one more extra guy, but Patrick Mahomes was very elusive and was able to find a one-on-one matchup down the football field, and it was too much for the Ravens secondary. If you have a guy like a Matt Judon on the outside who is their franchise tag player, being able to rush up the field and put pressure on the quarterback, then you're not necessarily worrying about your coverage end of things. They just recently re-signed Marlon Humphrey. I think overall, this defense is definitely a stock up. However, those guys, they know who they are. They know who needs to step up.
Grant, Montez Sweat picked up the steam from Chase Young when he went down with that injury against the Browns. He had 4 combined tackles and a sack versus Cleveland. Stock up, stock down for Old Spice's Sweat defense.
Stock all the way up, as high as stock can go. Buy all the stock that you can. And particularly with Chase Young out right now, someone on this defensive front has to step up. And, it's not like all of a sudden he's going to get chipped and doubled like you often see from a secondary pass rusher when the number 1 guy goes down. Because off the bench comes Ryan Carrigan, who over the first 2 weeks was getting 22, 23 snaps at the defensive end position. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler who himself is the all-time leading sack artist in Washington for the football team. So I think Montez Sweat's still going to get a lot of one-on-one matchups. I think he's still going to get a chance to impact the game as a pass rusher. But where I've been blown away by his progress is against the run, setting the edge, getting into the backfield, tackles for loss. They traded up into the first round to get him in the mid-20s because they felt like he could alter games. And he completely took the game over against the Browns in the 3rd quarter. If not for a 3rd and 12 conversion on a 15-yard completion to Odell Beckham Jr., he would have forced essentially 2 consecutive 3-and-outs almost by himself of Cleveland. That's the type of stuff that you see from Defensive Player of the Year type. So I'm very high on the game Sweat's coming off of and the strong start to his season.
You could say Baker Mayfield felt the sweat on the back of his neck starting to dribble down. Kimberly Martin, Logan Thomas is the new tight end for the Washington football team, and he's had a touchdown catch. It was in week 1 against the Eagles, but since then he's been fairly quiet. He's the number 1 tight end on the roster right now, and Dwayne Haskins seems to be targeting him, but he's only caught half of those targets. Stock up or stock down on Logan Thomas?
You know what? I'm going to say stock up. I'm going to give him another game because especially with the Ravens, they haven't done a great job limiting other teams' tight ends, like going against Kelsey, going against Fells. Like, they've had some trouble with tight ends. I think this could be a game. Look, if Dwayne Haskins is going to Logan Thomas, they need to work on that chemistry. There's been a lot of targets to Terry McLaurin, but there's been some miscommunication and miscues there. So Dwayne and his receivers, his pass catchers, just need to get into a better rhythm. I'm going with Logan Thomas for another week. Let's see how it goes.
Let's get some predictions. I'm not asking for a final score in this contest because that's tough. It's always tough on the spot. But let's look at some stats to see if you can give us some picks. Terry McLaurin's receptions. Kimberly Martin, how many receptions is Terry McLaurin going to get if he plays on Sunday?
He's averaging about 8 targets a game, but only 5 catches. Again, that miscommunication, miscues. So I think he's going to come out of this game with about 7 catches. That's what I need to see at least.
Okay. Grant, Washington is second in the NFL with sacks at 13. The Pittsburgh Steelers have more at 15. They're averaging 4.3 sacks per game. So what's your prediction on the sack number for Washington football's front seven?
Unfortunately, I guess play the soundbite for me being the negative guy for a moment here.
Shocking.
I've got the number a little lower than you might think, based on what I call game script, right? Baltimore is going to be leading. I think they're going to be running the ball pretty frequently. In the second half, they're going to be up. And oh, by the way, if you do everything right, as Kimberly and Q have pointed out, and Lamar Jackson's dead to rights, you still don't necessarily get to get a sack for that. So I'm going to say 2 sacks in this game, similar to number to last week with Baker Mayfield. That number would have been higher if the Browns weren't handing the ball off to Chubb in the entire second half and Kareem Hunt when he got tired. So I expect a lot of running the football and the Ravens being in front in the second half. So I'll say 2 sacks.
Yeah, that's a great I'm glad you brought that up, Grant, because Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt went off in Washington football. I already brought up J.K. Dobbins, and that's where I'm going with Kadri right now for his prediction. How well do you think this Ravens rushing attack is going to do with Ingram, Edwards, and J.K. Dobbins? How many rushing yards are you predicting?
Yeah, so if I'm saying stock was down and J.K. Dobbins was somewhat in, I think this is a week where they bounce back, where they, in fact, say that they are a dominant run offense, that they do have some horses in the backfield that not wear jersey number 8, that they can make big runs consistently for 4 quarters, and they can finish off games. So I think this is a week where they go for 250 plus. It's going to be a dominating performance. Yeah, I've seen it so consistently that it shocks other teams until you realize, like, oh my God, they just keep coming at us in waves and waves. And it's that big play capability that, yes, pads the stats. But when you recognize it's a 14, 15 play drive and they've been on the field and they've just been pounding you, and then they finally get in the end zone with Mark Andrews catching a touchdown pass, that's when you realize, wow, this Ravens team, they're for real.
Yeah, it's going to be a great contest with all kinds of players stepping up. And those are our predictions and our stock up, stock downs from our panel. We'll take a quick break and then take a glance at the rest of the NFL. And the big storyline, Kimberly, I know you've been talking about it on ESPN, Get Up with Mike Greenberg, is the Steelers-Titans game due to COVID-19. Keep it locked right here. We're going to discuss it next on The Beat.
The Honda Accord LX is in a class all by itself. It has upscale styling and standard Honda sensing to help improve awareness on the road. With more horsepower than the Nissan Altima S and more torque than the Toyota Camry L. Maybe that's why Car and Driver called it America's best midsize sedan. Now is a great time to get a great deal on the Accord. Contact your Honda dealer to learn more or shop online.
FanDuel's new Best Ball Leagues make it easy to play season-long fantasy. Draft once and FanDuel will optimize your lineup each week. But to make it even easier...
What's up, Jeff?
We hired head coach Jeff Fisher to help Tony on game days.
I've studied the matchups, I've adjusted for bye weeks and injuries, and I'm making paella. But I'm allergic to shellfish. You know I can't make it without shrimp. Thank you, Jeff. You're doing a great job.
FanDuel's Best Ball. There's no easier way to play season-long fantasy. Leagues start at $1. Make your first deposit and get a bonus worth up to $500.
COVID changed everything. More demands on students, parents, educators. But there was a $4 billion education shortfall in Maryland even before COVID. We have a lot to do for our kids. close the digital divide, provide opportunities to pursue vocational and technical education, and hire more qualified teachers. Question 2 will put millions into Maryland schools using revenue from sports betting. I know it won't solve every problem, but a yes vote will help our Maryland schools.
At Inova, COVID-19 testing of all patients having a procedure or surgery, continuous training of our team members, and thorough cleaning of our facilities are just some of the many ways we work to keep you safe. You're safe at Inova.
This fall, if you're looking for an adventure, find it in the new Honda, like the turbocharged Accord, the turbocharged all-wheel drive CR-V, and the all-wheel drive HR-V, with great features like second-row magic seats. It's time to explore and say hello to the open road. Don't miss your chance to get a great deal on your favorite Honda model. When it comes to the best value, Honda leaves the others in the dust. See your local Honda dealer and start your adventure today.
Welcome back to The Beat. I'm Chip Brierre. Our panel is here for our final segment, and I brought up the power rankings in the first segment for a reason, guys, because we're going to take our top 3 teams in the NFL right now through 3 weeks of the season. Let's start with Kadri. Who are your top 3 teams in the NFL at this moment?
It has to be Patrick Mahomes, because when you look at what they did to the Ravens on a primetime stage, the Chiefs just looked unbeatable. I think Eric Bieniemy has that offense humming along. I think defensively, with their defensive front applying pressure to the different offenses that they're going to be facing, I think that they're in the mix and conversation as a top team. I think Seattle Seahawks are right there as far as what Russell Wilson is doing. Love his poise, love his ability to shred a defense and put up so many points. But then at the same time, okay, the Raiders are a team that's good. However, when you look at the overall league, we're looking at Lamar Jackson. And I'm saying to myself, Lamar, you're going to get a reprieve this week. Therefore, you're still in the top 3.
Kimberly, your top 3.
Okay, well, can't go against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Honestly, Patrick Mahomes is the only person winning in 2020. Number 2, I'm still sticking with Baltimore. Down week doesn't change my belief in Lamar and this offense. Number 3, I'm glad to say number 3 is the Seahawks, because if they let Russ cook for the rest of the season, I feel pretty good about my preseason league MVP pick. I think it's going to be Russell. So it's good to see him finally getting to take over some games.
Hashtag let Russ cook. Grant.
You guys are just quietly sleeping so comfortably on the Green Bay Packers. They're
4. They're number 4 for me. They're number 4.
They're number 3 for me.
They were 13-3 last year, and I'm a big-time analytics guy, and the analytics community said, they shouldn't have been 13-3. They should have been 10-6, and then they hated their draft, and they hated their offseason. They scored 40 points twice. They let down with 37 points in a win over the Saints and Drew Brees this past week. So I'm looking at number 1, Kansas City, who have outscored their opponents by 31. Number 2, Green Bay, plus 37 in margin is really impressive. And then I will keep the Ravens in my top 3. I'm going to give them a mulligan after what happened at Kansas City. I think that's a bad matchup for them, but I could easily still see them winning 13 games this year. That'll get them right where they need to be into that top 3.
I know our viewers only care about the other 3, but I'm going to throw my power rankings out for the top 3. Chiefs, Seahawks, Packers. That's why I love you, Grant. The Packers, man. You're sleeping on Aaron Rodgers. Don't sleep on Ron.
He's playing well. He's playing very well.
He is playing very well. There are a lot of great matchups this week, but very quickly, we got to address the Steelers and the Titans. That game has been postponed due to positive cases of COVID-19 within the Titans organization. And now they are locked out of their facility until Saturday. There are a bunch of scheduling changes possibly in the mix. How are you guys reacting to this first instance of COVID-19 having a serious impact on the NFL scheduling? Grant, let's start with you.
Well, first of all, I think this was the right decision, honestly. I mean, I know that there were only 2 new cases in the days of testing since the original 3, but you can't really afford to risk maybe by game time, if you move forward, another 2 or 3 players having COVID. And then what if one of the Steelers gets it? Now we've got a full-blown outbreak. So you got to keep your fingers crossed, I think, as a football fan, that this is an isolated incident. We're not going to be able, as the year goes on, to reschedule several weeks back and move bye weeks around more than a couple of times. This isn't like baseball where you can play double headers. So this is scary, but I like what the league's done. And I'm amazed by the players, guys. Kimberly Q, I don't know what you guys think, but I mean, I would have thought by now we had a lot more cases and more issues like this. It's been incredible that we haven't.
Kimberly?
Yeah, in July, I was very skeptical that June, July, I was skeptical, like, are we going to get training camp on time? What's it all going to look like? Are we going to get a season starting on time? And I was shocked and I was relieved and I was happy. But like others are saying, it's a good wake-up call. It's a good reminder, because I think maybe we're seeing in the country that COVID cases are spiking up again. And it's a good reminder for us all that COVID is still out there. It's still a threat. We have to take the precautions. And it's interesting because Mike Tomlin was asked on Thursday in his press conference about, what if you have to play 13 games in a row? And he says, we don't care. Obviously, Mike Tomlin, someone like that's going to say that. But that's what we're facing. You hope there aren't any more outbreaks. But as Grant was saying, when we get later in the season, we can't move the schedule around the same way. So hopefully this is it, fingers crossed. But kudos to the league and the players and everybody associated with these teams. This has been really good so far.
I got to say, guys, in terms of a polite roundtable discussion, this was much more civil and entertaining than our first presidential election. That's all I'm going to leave it at that. Grant Paulson of 106.7 The Fan, Qadri Ismail, former Ravens wide receiver and analyst for the team, and Kimberly Martin of ESPN. You can watch her on Get Up. Guys, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, the viewers, for tuning in, and we will see you later. Week 4, Ravens, Washington football team, Sunday at 1. Have a great weekend.